Yo, Smelly Randy here. Kari and I just got back from a weekend trip to Oregon, and so I'm going to do a trip recap taking you through this insane route that I had planned. Let's go! Alright, so now that 2019 is over and I'm still insanely backlogged on videos, I wanted to try something new where I make a trip recap video, like right when I get back, something shorter and easier to throw together and upload, where I basically recap the whole trip, go through the itinerary, show you some photos since I tend to edit those pretty quickly when I get back. Maybe I'll throw some video in here too. That way you at least get just a little taste of what to expect whenever I finally do get around to editing the full trip video. So this was our first trip of 2020. Since I am saving up time off at work to hopefully hike the John Muir Trail this fall, the only trips I've planned are around holiday weekends, so I don't need to take any time off. And this past weekend was Martin Luther King Jr. weekend. And so I plan to go to Oregon and finally cross off Crater Lake National Park off my list. I've been trying to go there for a long time. And so this is the insane route I mapped of Oregon around going to Crater Lake National Park. And yes, it says 20 hours and 31 minutes of drive time, which is something I do, I would say, fairly regularly, which sounds insane, but I just like to pack in as much as I can into every trip, make the most of it, see as much as humanly possible in the time that I have. So yeah, I'm going to switch over to my laptop here and show you our route, and let's just get into it. All right, so we started by flying into Portland on Friday night. We got in right around midnight, had our rental car by 1 a.m., then drove to a friend's place, and by the time we were getting to bed, it was already 2 a.m. We then slept for, I think, 3 hours, got up and left by 5 a.m., drove an hour and a half down to Silver Falls State Park in time for sunrise. Unfortunately, it was pretty overcast. There was no morning light really, and I think we had a pretty soggy morning. I think it was raining a bit still when we got there, but that kind of faded, so we stayed pretty dry. We started off by hiking around North Falls, which you basically, the one thing that's cool about Silver Falls State Park is that almost all the waterfalls you can walk underneath, which is really cool. I had been there already, but Kari hadn't, and it was kind of on the way, so I figured why not start there, show her a couple of waterfalls, and then move on. So we started by doing North Falls. That was maybe a mile, or maybe just under a mile round trip, so they're all pretty short hikes. And then we drove down the road to the main entrance of the park and did the short hike down to South Falls. I had some new neutral density filters that I wanted to try out. So I did bring those and actually got some pretty good results, which I'll show you here. So after Silver Falls, we were driving this road here through the mountains, which I didn't really realize what we would be driving through when I mapped it out. And there was just a ton of snow up in here, and the driving was slow. The chain laws were in full effect. People were pulled over, getting their chains installed on their tires. I knew to expect snow, at least down at Crater Lake National Park, so I made sure that I rented an all-wheel drive SUV. So we were fine in that regard. It was just much slower driving than we expected through this section here. By the time we got right around here, we were realizing that we weren't going to have time to make the detour to Smith Rock State Park. We probably would have added, I think, at least an hour by making the detour out to Smith Rock, because we wanted to make sure that we could get all the way down to Tokatee Falls before it got dark out. And so we made the decision, let's skip Smith Rock, just so we can make sure we get to the waterfall before it gets dark out. So let's go ahead and remove that. Oop, and we were already driving that way, so that is then what our drive looked like. So removing Smith Rock State Park put our ETA to Toketee Falls at about, I think, 4:15 p.m. and sunset was at 5 p.m. So we were already pushing it, and I knew a lot of this road right here was going to be snowy because part of it, and I knew this road was already closed, and these roads had actually just opened up the day before. So I knew that was going to be more slow driving. So we were really just hoping to get lucky to be able to get to the trailhead, make the short hike out to the falls before it got dark out. So yeah, that's pretty much what happened. We made it down past Bend and all through here, and then sure enough, we turn onto this road right here, and it's just extremely snowy, slow driving, single lane both directions. There's plows on the road. We're just moving slow. We did end up getting to Toketee Falls around, I think, 4:30 or 4:20 or something like that. The hike was completely covered with snow, but it was relatively flat, so we weren't even too concerned with micro spikes or snowshoes or anything like that, even though we had them. We did get out there and make it to the top viewing platform at Toketee Falls, and we're able to see it while it was still light out, but it was getting darker by the minute when we were there. But the good news was there was no one else there, so we had it completely to ourselves. I was really hoping to get down to the base of the waterfalls, which that would have been a perfect time to go down there just because we were the only ones there. But it was super steep from the viewing platform. There was no obvious way down, and it just would have been far too dangerous. And from what I found out after the fact is that there's actually like a rope going down this steep ledge down there, which I didn't see because it was almost certainly covered with snow anyway, and I still wouldn't have taken it. But so that was a little bit of a bummer, but we at least got to see the falls before it got dark out. And then after that, we drove just a little bit west, and this is where we stayed. Umpqua's Last Resort Cabins, RV Park, and something else. And we actually stayed in a little cabin that was basically just like that. Maybe it was actually probably a little bit bigger. So we got there and just relaxed. We brought some food and just threw a movie on and hung out for a little bit before getting some sleep. And now here's where things got interesting because the next morning I wanted to catch sunrise at Crater Lake National Park if possible. The problem is that, and here's Crater Lake, you see these roads all the way around the park. This road coming into the park, that's closed all winter long. The only road that's open into the park is this one to Rim Village Visitor Center. And then this whole road is closed, and then all the way around is closed. So literally just this route is what's open in the winter, and that's it. And the real issue is that this road was completely closed all weekend. At this point, it's Saturday night. The road has been closed since Thursday, and they updated their website saying they were clearing it, and hopefully it would open on Sunday sometime. No ETA when. So my plan was, if the road was still closed, what we would do is just go right here to the gate where the road is still open, and then we would just snowshoe 6 miles down the road here to the rim and catch sunrise. In order to do that, we would have to leave our little cabin at, I think, 3 a.m., then drive 2 hours and 15 minutes to get right down here, then hike in time to catch sunrise at like 7:45. So that's what we did. We got up and we were out the door by 3 a.m. We made the drive all the way around. This is the road that is normally open in the winter. I'm sorry, this is the road that's normally open in the winter that makes it quicker to get to the park. But this road was also closed, so we had to go all the way around here. So we got to the park around 5 a.m. and we're driving. We get past here where I thought it was closed at. We're driving down the road here, and then we get right here where the headquarters is, and all of a sudden we come up on a closed gate, and we're like, oh man, we're not going to be able to get there. But then it's like, oh, well, we're actually closer than I thought we would be to the lake. Let's just snowshoe from here. So we got the snowshoes out, and we would have just snowshoed right on the road, but there's all kinds of signs on the gate saying don't ski or hike or snowshoe on the road because we're actively trying to clear the road because they try and keep that road open all winter long. So we kind of go up on the side of the road and up into the trees, and we weren't the first people to do that. So there was kind of a path, but it was just really slow going. There were slants. The trekking poles we didn't have the snow baskets for them, which I knew would be an issue. I didn't know how big of an issue. It was just every time you tried to plant, your pole just went straight through all the way down, and they were just completely useless. So after about 25 minutes of trying to snowshoe through that, we just gave up. We were like, even if we went for it, we weren't going to make it to the rim in time for sunrise, so we just kind of retreated back to the vehicle. After that, we talked to a ranger. She had no ETA for when the gate would open, and we had like just under half a tank of gas. So what we decided to do was, let me zoom out here. We decided to drive all the way back to this city, Chiloquin, however you say that. We filled up our gas, we got some breakfast over there, then drove back to the park. We got back to the park at 9 a.m., so we had at that point we had plenty of time to do whatever we needed to do and just hope that the gate would open up by the time we got back. So we got back to the park, 9 a.m., got to the entrance station, which now has a person there, a ranger there. They tell us 10 a.m. the gate's gonna open. Okay, great. So then we got back here to the headquarters where the gate was, and we just kind of hung out there for an hour, and then at 10 a.m. they open the gate, we drive through. It's just an unbelievable scene up there in the winter. I'm still blown away by just how much snow they get. Everything is perfectly like frosted, snow and ice on everything. It was just beautiful. And so we were like, the third people up to the rim since Thursday. So we basically had this whole side of the lake to ourselves, which was great. So we strapped the snowshoes on, and we decided that we would snowshoe up to Discovery Point. The original plan, if the road had been open, is to park at the visitor center here and then snowshoe all the way up the road, the closed road here. We're going to snowshoe up there all the way to Watchman, which is a lookout tower, and you see kind of the view that you'd get looking east from there. So that was the plan, was to try and make it up to that lookout tower in time for sunrise. But unfortunately that didn't happen, so we were there after sunrise, and then you see if I zoom in, here's Discovery Point. So it was probably 1.2 miles each way from where we were parked. So yeah, parked here, snowshoed up to Discovery Point right in here. The views were amazing. Crater Lake was just gorgeous. We had basically a beautiful bluebird day. And then snowshoed back to the car, took some last pictures, and then we had some more driving to do. So we had to get from Crater Lake all the way west to the coast, and we were trying to do that in time for sunset. That is a 4-hour drive, and as you can tell, on non-major highways all the way through here. We actually drove through, I think, an area where they were doing controlled burnings, which actually created an amazing view of sunbeams coming through the trees, hitting the smoke. It was actually a really, really cool drive for about a half hour of it. So that was really cool. We ended up getting to Face Rock State Scenic Viewpoint just before or after sunset. It ended up, by the time we got to the coast, it was really cloudy. So there really was no sunset, but we were able to see Face Rock while it was still light out. And I think by the time we got in our car there, it was significantly darker to the point where you could hardly see it. So after that, we drove 45 minutes up to Coos Bay, where our Airbnb was. Went to Seven Devils Brewing Company, which was just all right for dinner. Got some sleep, got up at 5:30, went to Mom's Kitchen for breakfast in Coos Bay. Highly recommended. Just an awesome place to grab a bite if you're in the area. Great little mom and pop diner. And then, so yeah, now it's Monday morning, and we are driving the entire coast up before going back to the airport. So I'm going to run down a few of the spots that we hit in order after we had breakfast at Coos Bay. So first was Oregon Dunes National Recreation Area, which I think is that one right there. We actually didn't drive like into the area at all. We just kind of drove through, and I was surprised that almost this entire area, all the way through here, you see sand dunes right along the highway. So that's why we didn't really feel like we needed to get out and walk around at all. So that was pretty neat. Moving on north. The Sea Lion Caves. I really wanted to do the Sea Lion Caves, but I just didn't think that we'd have time. But just north of the caves is an area, it's a viewpoint, and on Google Maps it's called Lighthouse and Sea Lion Beach Vantage Point. And then you get down to the right, we saw, like, it must have been hundreds of sea lions up on the coast. That was cool. And then if you look past them down the coast, you see Hasita Head Lighthouse. So that was a good viewpoint to stop at. Continuing north, we then hit Thor's Well and Devil's Churn. That Thor's Well area was really cool. We were there in the morning, basically right at high tide, which I think was like 8 a.m. Waves were crashing everywhere. I couldn't really get, because it was high tide, I couldn't really get a great shot of Thor's Well. But that whole area is definitely worth stopping at. That's a really cool spot. Devil's Churn was pretty cool, very similar. And then we hit Devil's Punchbowl after that. Also a very worthy place to stop at. And actually, once we hit Devil's Punchbowl, we realized we kind of had to hurry because we were trying to meet up with my buddy at Tillamook Creamery by noon, or 12:30. So we just hit up a couple other quick scenic viewpoints, the Rocky Creek State Scenic Viewpoint and the Boiler Bay State Scenic Viewpoint. So we just made quick stops at those before getting up to Tillamook Creamery, which is all the way up here. So by then we had driven a lot of the coast by 12:30. So yeah, we went into the creamery and did the little self-guided tour. Basically had lunch there. They've got a lot of different kind of food vendors inside. So, you know, we got some cheese curds, mac and cheese, ice cream, you name it. That was pretty cool. Never been to a creamery before. After that, we continued north, and at this point, we're getting toward the end of our day. Went up to Hug Point State Recreation Site. This was pretty cool. We got out, walked down to the beach, walked along the coast a little bit, and if you kind of go around this bend, you get to this amazing like waterfall that flows into the ocean right down the beach. That was a really cool area. And then just beyond that, you get out to where Hug Point actually is. And here, I'm going to show you in Google Street View here. So this is where things got a little crazy. At this point, it's like 3 or 4 p.m. The waterfall is right around the corner here. So we came from out here, did the waterfall. Our friends waved us around the corner here. So we come out into this little cave here. We get right back here, and all of a sudden a wave starts coming in, and it starts coming all the way in, all the way back into here. So we're getting down, we're like getting pushed back further into this cave. And that's when I start freaking out. All I can see is around the corner here, just barely, and the water is up to like this level, maybe like knee height or mid-thigh height. And all I'm thinking is like, that's my only way out of here. So I'm taking my shoes off. I'm like, if I need to swim out of here, I'm not going to have my shoes weighing me down. I'm freaking out. My shoes are off, and I'm like, I got to get out of here right now. And I hear my buddy behind me, and he's like, when this wave recedes, we should probably get out of here. And I'm thinking, like, how do you even know this wave is going to recede? Like, this might just keep filling in. And so I'm like already on the move. I'm getting out of there. Thank God the wave kind of goes back, and then we are able to get back around the corner. But I was legitimately very nervous, borderline freaking out, like fight or flight mode. Everyone else was, I thought, way too calm for the situation. I'm just a big wuss when it comes to running water and the ocean. It just seems so unpredictable, and I'm a total wuss. I don't mess with that at all. It's way too scary. So that was everyone else seemed relatively unfazed by that, and I was pretty shook. It was not cool. I did not like that one bit. So then I was like, all right, let's get the hell out of here. So yeah, after that we had a short drive up to Cannon Beach. That's where the famous Haystack Rock is, most notably from the movie The Goonies. That's always a cool area to hang out at. We walked around, took some pictures, saw that. And then by that point, it's getting pretty late in the day. We had a 9 p.m. flight, and we knew we were going to have at least a 2-hour drive back, or right around that. So we made one last stop to Ecola State Park, which is just up the road from Cannon Beach. It's one of these. I think it's basically this whole green area is Ecola State Park. We went in there and enjoyed the views. It's a beautiful area. When you drive in, it's like you're driving right into a rainforest. Really cool place to do a hike too. I know I've been there before, and I think we did the Indian Beach Trail here, which gets you to that view right there, overlooking the ocean and the coast. Beautiful spot. Look that trail up if you're in the area and looking for a hike, and that is Ecola State Park. After that, we basically realized we weren't going to have enough time to go up to Astoria before heading back to the airport, so we had to axe that. And then, yeah, we had about a 2-hour drive back to Portland, and straight to the airport, straight to the car rental drop-off, and that was our trip. Caught a 9 o'clock flight back to Denver, was back in Denver by like 12:30 or something like that, and so we didn't get to bed until like 1:30 in the morning on Monday, on MLK Day. So yeah, that's how I packed the most into a holiday weekend without taking any time off from work. If you're wondering how I take so many trips, that is part of it. I see as much as I can with the time that I have. If I can, I'll fly out Friday night right after work, and then I'll come back late Sunday or Monday, whatever it is. Even if that means I don't get much sleep before going into work the next morning, I'm fine with one miserable night at work if it means I get to see all the things that I'm trying to see wherever I'm going. So overall, it was a good trip. It really, like I said before, it revolved around getting to Crater Lake National Park. It's been on my to-do list for many years now. I believe that was National Park number 29 for me, so I'm getting up there, getting close to half. I definitely would have done some things differently. I think I would have skipped Silver Falls State Park just because I've been there before. I knew it was probably going to be a little rainy. I think I would have skipped that, and if I could, I would have been at Smith Rock State Park in time for sunrise. And I think I would have just spent more time down in these areas, in these national forests. You see all the stars here, because those are basically all waterfall hikes and hot springs that I have saved. So yeah, I think I would have spent more time in here and maybe a little bit more time at Crater Lake, and then maybe just done a little bit less of the coast. But no, it was all good. We made it work. Not everything went according to plan. We obviously had to skip Smith Rock State Park and Astoria and that northern coast up there, but I mean, we still saw the vast majority of the Oregon coast, which was great. I'll put a link to the full itinerary down in the description in case you want to download it and do the same trip or some of it, and that way you can kind of get an idea for how I plan my trips on paper. I'll put Google Maps links to all of these locations down there as well, so you can find everything, and then I'll also put All Trails links to any of the hikes that we did also down in the description. So yeah, I think that is about it. First trip of 2020 in the books to Oregon, Crater Lake National Park, and the entire Oregon coast. If you have any questions, let me know. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you guys soon. Bye!